Hey, so in today's video, I'd like to speak with you about a lesson that I recently acquired, which is to become a free thinker. Now, this wasn't exactly one that I would say I was on one extreme of and didn't have at all. I still had it, but I'm talking about the extreme of it, the perfect understanding of free thinking, because I knew maybe half, maybe even a little more, but now I know. Well, not fully, but I know better. So let's get into it. Free thinking, right? So, what is it to be a free thinker? Because for a lot of people, for most people for that matter, we're all born to believe that we're free in thought and action and land and ways that we live, like whatever it is, you're born to believe you're free. And I'm not saying you're not free. You're not a slave. You're not a slave, but you're not also free. You know, you're kind of in the middle, right? But that's where we're going with this. A free thinker will take the two extremes, like I just mentioned, perfectly free in slavery. And they'll go to the middle. Easy, right? They could choose one over the other, but they go to the middle. And there's more steps to that. But let's focus on that one point, going to the middle. So for now, I want you to take something, whatever it may be. I just want you, like, it could be down. I have a spray paint can right here, and I have another brand over there. It could be down to two brands of items, right? Two different things. What I want you to do is I just want you to keep them in mind. Here's one extreme, and this is the other, and this is the middle. Keep them in mind. Just for now. It could be anything stupid. It doesn't matter. Just pick something. So what we're going to do is look at the two extremes, right? We have that spray paint can and we have this one. What are they good at? What are they bad at? How does it work for you? What do you agree with? What do you disagree with? I want you to think about this. Because oftentimes we'll look at the spray paint brand and it's metaphorical, so, and we'll look at it for the good things or maybe the bad things. And if we look at the good things, we'll instantly say, this one's good, this one must be bad. Or if we look at the bad things, this one's good, this must be bad, right? But I want you to look at both ends, and I want you to look at what's good and what's bad about your metaphorical spray paint can. Let's say this one right here, is better at sticking, or what is it? Yeah, better at sticking to plastic and metal. So the one I have over here, it isn't. Maybe it's better for cardboard or lighter crafts or just coloring, whatever it may be. Gravel. They're two different. They're two different things, right? So now I know this one's good for that, this one's good for that, and vice versa. This one's bad for that, this one's bad for that. So what did I just do? In simple terms, I just came to the middle and I looked at both of them. I looked at their pros and cons and I decided, I don't really spray paint on gravel or cardboard or anything like that, so I don't agree with this one. But it's still good for those who do spray paint on whatever it may be, cardboard, gravel, cement, whatever it may be. It's still good for that. But then, I use this one more, so we're going with this one. And then this one on the other end is bad for those who want to use it on cardboard and gravel and all that. And I don't do it, so it doesn't really affect me. So I'm still going to go with this. But I recognize that this is not going to be everybody's brand. This is not going to be everybody's thing. This one right here is not going to work for everybody. This can work for some. This can work for others. Metaphorically, all I did was just go to the middle, and I looked at both ends. And this is this is not as simple as spray paint, because in certain ways, like politics, government, and all that, you'll look at one side and the other. For Canada, it's, let's say, conservatives and liberals, and you look at what they do, what they do right, wrong, all that stuff, and you'll say, I'm more of a liberal, or, I'm more of a conservative, and it's more complicated than a spray paint brand, because you might also, in stuff like that, because it's huge, here's the middle, and conservatives, liberals, you might be here, which is the middle of the middle in this, so, or you might be here. between this and the middle. And then, like, you can't fully agree. You still call yourself a liberal if you're right here, or a conservative if you're right here. But it's much more complicated than, I use this spray paint only in these scenarios, therefore I can fully support this spray paint. You see what I mean? So it's more of a metaphor, but it's easy. It's so easy, because all I'm telling you to do, and I just described it in the simplest form, was I want you to come up with two extremes, and bring them to the middle. And look at what they're good for, look at what they're bad for, look about what you find is more useful for you and what could be useful for others, what you disagree with, what you agree with. Look at all this. And then pick whichever place you want to be. It's a whole line, right? So the two extremes are right here, and here's the middle. You don't have to be here or on the other extreme or in the middle or here, or here. Like, you could literally be anywhere. But before you identify yourself with one end or the other, you got to bring yourself to the middle. That's free thinking. You can still be fully conservative or fully liberal or fully spray paint brand this, spray paint brand that. It doesn't matter what you're going to do, but you just need to come to the middle first. It's pretty simple because, usually you'd think I could just identify with what's good, but not always. In heavier cases, like conservatives and liberals, there's some things that conservatives do that I agree and disagree with, and the liberals that I agree and disagree with, and so where do I end up? I'm not fully one or the other. But if I fully supported the conservatives or fully supported the liberals and everything they did, regardless of if I agreed with it, then I wasn't a free thinker, I was just a sheep. Now, of course, in spray paint terms, this is not going to make sense, so we're moving on, but basically, you can still be whatever, but that doesn't mean you're exactly a free thinker, because you need to make sure that you at least have some idea of what moral boundaries apply to you. It's not about what moral boundaries apply to your best friend or your family or some guy who spoke on the internet like me. Your moral boundaries should not apply to anything that I say. In fact, you shouldn't even really listen to this. I'm telling you to consider things more or less. You can consider this information. This is not an instruction. This is advice. You can look at it, you can think about it, and as I said, you bring yourself to the middle and think, if I didn't listen, let's say, and if I did listen, pros, cons, put it in the middle, end up somewhere on the scale. I'm not even instructing you. Just take the advice is what I'm saying. So no matter where you go, just look at both ends and figure, right? Do I agree with it or do I not agree with it? And if you do, but you also don't in some cases, then boom, it's as easy as that. You're kind of free thinking, right? You have an opinion. You have a moral compass that isn't that of somebody else's. You have free thought. Because what they easily do in so many instances is they'll take your thought and they'll mend it to be so like, it's just as simple as choosing. And it really isn't. Not in most cases. I mean, you could still, the spray paint brand, you could just look up good for metal, and if this one came up, spray paint good for metal, and this one came up, then yeah, you could buy it. It's really not that bad. But if you went down to government or, just something giant, you gotta look into it more. Because people oftentimes will look at just the few tip of the iceberg kind of information bits, the things at the top, the headlines, the punchers, the things that get you, like we're supporting this or we're gonna build this, and these guys don't support this, these guys don't want to build this, and then instantly, before you even look at what else they do and do not do, you could be on their side, and then instantly against the other side, because you believe, well, if they're doing this, that's pretty good. So, and if these guys aren't doing this, then, maybe I don't like them. Maybe I shouldn't support them at all. And in some instances, yeah, that's true. But first, you should at least analyze and think, are these guys really the good guys? And are these guys really the bad guys? They might be. I'm not saying they won't be. But be a free thinker, because these guys could do something irrational, and these guys could do something extremely good. And what, you you just shit on these guys and support these guys. So when that day comes to pass, you're considered the enemy and these guys are considered the hero. Like, you see the point? I mean, of course, in spray paint brand terms, you cannot apply this seriously. So we're moving to something bigger, I'm saying. But it still is a similar principle throughout all of life. Whether or not the consequences will be large, it could be down to your palate of food, what you enjoy for dinner. It really could be anything. Big, small, medium. It really could just be anything. But remember to apply the general rule of just analyzing, look at both ends, and pick a spot that you agree with. I don't fully agree here, so I'm going to come back a little. And I don't fully agree here, so I'm just going to go right here, which is just there, where the middle is, right here. You see, it's pretty simple. It's so crucial, too, because you cannot find yourself being the type of person to just follow everything that someone says, right? Look at where that's brought people in history. Look at people like Hitler. I mean, I'm not saying that exactly the Germans had much of a choice per se. They were heavily infected with propaganda. And, you know, they didn't really have much of a law for free thinking, for that matter. I think it was quite against that. So, you know, it was harder for them, but still, look at what Hitler could achieve when no free thinking was involved. You see what I mean? Now, spray paint cans are not going to kill the Jews, so remember that still. We're moving on from spray paint cans. They won't be killing the Jews anytime soon. So remember that. But apply it to things like you would in metaphorical sense. Big and small. Because everything can require free thinking. And it only benefits you. And one more thing I just need to add, which is for another video, but just a point that I need to make, is do not be one of those guys who goes around fully supporting this and fully going actively against this, whatever this may be. And that's even after you've done your free thinking. I do not think there's any benefits to being a full activist of this and just a person who completely shits on this. The spray paint brand could be the worst brand, but if you still shit on it, it's, you know, I'm not exactly telling you to be a bully or to not be a bully, but at least have some common decency to recognize it's a brand, it's a thing, it was created, it's not entirely evil. I mean, there's some instances where something is entirely evil, but like I said with something like Hitler, not all the Germans really had a choice. So not all the Nazis were exactly bad people. That might get me canceled. So what? It's fucking true. So we're going to move on. But I'm telling you, don't be the guy who just fully looks at this like it's the enemy or it's bad or it's horrid or it's just you cannot live with this. But you can fully live with this. There's no flaws. This is perfect. Nothing is bad about this. It's not always the case, and or actually never is the case for that matter. There's always going to be a worm, there's always going to be a hole, there's always going to be one little good thing and one little bad thing. It doesn't really matter what it is, but there's always going to be something. And you don't need to be one of those people who goes around just demoting everything that you don't believe in. It is wrong, it is rude, you can respectfully disagree with it. Don't be a douchebag. Don't be a douchebag. Respectfully disagree with this and then move on. We'll talk about that more in another video because that's a whole other topic, but just have to say it because part of free thinking is, well, you know, where do you go next? Anyway, this is why free thinking is important. So you're not a sheep. So you're not just following something that could be slightly bad, but mostly good. You need to have some opinions. You need to disagree in some instances. You need to have at least some moral compass that is yours, not somebody else's. So become a free thinker with even something as small as a spray paint can. Today's challenge for you is pick out your spray paint can or your or your favorite dinner or your favorite tool or your favorite this or your favorite that, and then look at the opposite, your least favorite, and analyze them. Just come to the middle, look at them both, and see, even if your opinion slightly changes. Just like that. See what I mean? Notice how much that was nothing, but just see. It'll happen. It'll happen. That's your challenge. I wish you the best of luck in it. And I'm just going to tell you, I wish I knew all this sooner. Because, God, it would have been much easier to dissect to dissect things, knowing, it's not fully bad, it's not fully good. You know what I mean? I have a ton of stories I could tell you, but I'm going to tell you them in a more centered around that story video. And these are going to talk about the process I just shared with you. But I just want to give you the process. Bring it to your life. Use it. Anyway, that's all for my video. Take care, my friend.